you know, these magazines that come out.
Magazine?
Guitar player or hit parader, I don't know, whatever they are now. Heavy metal, whatever these magazines are. Classic rock.
Rolling Stone, Mojo.
Billboard, whatever you want to come out, whatever they come out with.
Spin.
And then it turns around and ends up being like a thing where every, you know, 3 or 4 months they'll come out with this magazine. It's got all the same usual suspects on it. Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, who else? The Doors, Jim Morrison,
right.
This one, that one. It's
Jimmy
always
Page,
the same
Robert Plant.
overrated people, icons from the 60s. When there were a lot of other great bands in the 60s that were just dropped off of a list somehow, for some corporate entity's list, without being recognized or anything. And that's this mentality that they've been washed out by the AOR men or whoever's in control of all this, the corporate radio bungholes or whatever. And,
yeah, PFM, weren't they the Italian CIA?
Yeah.
Yeah, kayak. Isn't that something you ride down the Schuylkill?
Yeah, and this is where it's gotten with all that, you know.
Omega, isn't that a clock company in the middle of Hungary?
Hawkwind, isn't that Cessna airplane or something? Or is that a vacuum
Pretty Boy
cleaner?
Floyd, wasn't he a gangster in the 20s?
Yeah, this is for radio, FM radio. Oh, it didn't come out.
No. Get the lead out. Get the Fred Zeppelin out.
Get the lead out. And then you got people, you know, talking big about songs from the 60s that Lenny Kravitz goes and does, like American Woman, the Guess Who. Everybody, oh, the Guess Who, the Guess Who. The worst band from the 60s that was laughed at back then. I mean, if you went into school with a Guess Who album, you were laughed at by people. I mean,
yeah,
like,
Iron Butterfly. Wasn't that a butterfly turned into a reptile?
What's next? Injured Horsefly Records that will release all this underground stuff. Who's going to pick up the, you know, who's going to pick up all the pieces?
No, I told you earlier, it's going to be Wounded Amphibians.
Yeah.
Replace Wounded Bird.
When all these people disappear, all these great bands that are less well known, who's going to pick up the pieces? Who's going to be there with money to pick up the pieces? Or is it just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse as we go down the road? I mean, we've got all these tribute bands now, cover bands. This is another joke.
Yeah, you know, John Mayall, didn't he sell refrigerators in the 50s?
Yeah. What are we going to be reduced down to here? That was a close one. Almost got the camera knocked over, folks.
Paul Butterfield, didn't he sell margarine in the 70s?
What are we going to be reduced down to here? Are we going to be reduced down to where all we have left are tribute bands of all these bands when these guys die off and they pass away? Because there's nobody coming around that's really any good anymore.